Coalition MPs have clashed once again over funding for new coal-fired power in their party room meeting this morning. Let's take you straight to Canberra. Our political reporter Trudy McIntosh is with us. This is just a debate, Trudy, that isn't going anywhere. Probably not surprising to see this issue of coal raised again today.
No, it certainly isn't, Ash. It's one of those issues that seems to be a perennial one for the coalition, this fight over whether taxpayers' money should be used to support coal-fired power. Open warfare over the last few days between moderates in the Liberal Party and Conservatives within the Nationals about this Collinsville coal project. We know that the Prime Minister just a few days ago announced that $4 million would be going into a feasibility study to look at that coal-fired power plant. Many of the Nationals want that plant to be supported. They want to see these coal projects go ahead, but it's not a view supported by moderate Liberals. Today, once again in the party room, we've seen a showdown over coal. Matt Canavan standing up in support of this Collinsville project. But interestingly, ahead of the meeting, the Australian reporting that senior cabinet ministers were advising Liberal moderates that they need to be careful in any sort of feud erupting with the Nationals in the party room over coal. But ahead of that, Matt Canavan, ahead of the meeting, he was not doing much to relieve tensions within the coalition, taking aim at the Liberal moderates.
Finally, I welcome people having different views. Some of my colleagues or others want to have a different view to mine. That's their right, and I respect that. I just hope they'd consider at the next election coming up to Collinsville with a convoy, perhaps, of cars and vehicles, and holding a rally there to protest against the coal-fired power station there, particularly if they live south of the border, down in Sydney, Melbourne, maybe Tasmania. Please come up to North Queensland and tell us all how immoral and corrupt. It would help us a lot.
But the Labor Party also has its own issues when it comes to coal. There certainly appears to be a few mixed messages now when it comes to what the opposition does believe when it comes to supporting coal-fired power. It was a very insistent and strong message from Anthony Albanese this morning, but a different emphasis from one of his frontbenchers, Michelle Rowland. Have a listen.
What Labor wants to see is investment in clean energy. I don't think there is a place for new coal-fired power plants in Australia. Full stop.
Labor recognises that coal will continue to play an important role in our energy mix in the decades to come. We are not going to be a party that abandons people who work in the coal sector. We recognise the importance of resources to our economy.
Trudy, just back on the Nats for a moment. There's been a lot of focus, of course, on Llew O'Brien, the Nationals defector, who surprisingly walked away with the Deputy Speaker role yesterday. He's given a hint this morning as to what he'll do in terms of his willingness to cross the floor.
Yeah, Llew O'Brien spoke to our political editor, Andrew Clennell, on the way into this party room meeting this morning, indicating what his position is when it comes to crossing the floor. He says, quote, "It's business as usual as a government member. I support the same legislative agenda in the same way." He goes on to say, "Crossing the floor is only an option if I held a strongly held view and I'd exhausted all other options." The Prime Minister yesterday, we know, received a letter late last night from Llew O'Brien in which he said essentially that he would be guaranteeing his support for most pieces of government legislation. But we can't forget what happened on the floor of the Parliament after question time yesterday. Labor was able to get the support of rebel National MPs. They defied their leader, Michael McCormack. He wanted to see Damien Drum installed as the Deputy Speaker, but with Labor's support and the support of at least up to 5 National MPs, Llew O'Brien was installed into that position. We know there's been a lot of tensions in the party in the wake of that leadership spill. Nationals whip Michelle Landry this morning, pretty frustrated at what's been happening. She says the vote we saw yesterday was an act of revenge by Barnaby Joyce supporters.
Oh, look, I am very disappointed that that happened. Colleagues have voted with Labor, so it is disappointing, but it's a democracy. I think it might have been a bit of revenge happening there because Barnaby didn't get the leadership. In the past, we've been really like a family, and I suppose family have their ups and downs, and you have your little tiffs. So I just want us to get on with the job.
Is Michael McCormack's job safe?
I believe so.
And one of Mr Joyce's strongest supporters, Matt Canavan, who appears to be everywhere at the moment, speaking to the media in his newly free position as a backbencher, he took a pretty thinly veiled swipe at Michael McCormack, arguing he simply cannot afford to lose any more members from the party.
It's good for footy teams sometimes to have a bit of a heart-to-heart and get up and tell people what they think of each other, and you can get on with it after that. Now we've had Lou leave us, which is sad, but I hope Michael now just focuses on uniting everybody, bringing people together. We don't want to lose any more, and we've got a job to do.
We will see an early test today on whether Llew O'Brien is willing to cross the floor. The Greens are putting up a motion for a federal ICAC. We know that Mr O'Brien in the past has been supportive of such a proposal. He has given an indication that he hasn't seen the detail of this bill and therefore won't be crossing the floor. But Ash, as you know, anything's possible in this place, so all eyes will be on Llew O'Brien when that vote does come to the floor.